So welcome. This is Tuesday, the 16th of June already. Yes. Today we're going to talk about chapter 4 and we're going to talk about something very nice, accents. Oh, new screen. Eentje terug. We're going to talk about accents. And in this lesson, it can be a little bit complicated, but if you stick to the basic rules, we will get there. When he will start with, I just do a short intro for the lesson so you can know what he's talking about. Let's take this word, de farine. And what we must train ourselves to see words not as combination of letters, but to see words as a combination of syllables. And I think this is an eye-opener. Nice eye, like this. If you start to understand, if you are able to see words not as individual letters, but can see them now as syllables, in this phase of your study, this will help you enormously. And you can only learn that by doing the exercises. And even though if it's not part of the exercise, when you write them out, put in the syllable markers. And I did in the beginning also CV, CV, CVC. So I know because I need to learn the language and I need to learn where is what. And because now we're coming into a phase where accents on a syllable have consequences. Consequences. So when an accent is on a syllable, it changes the pronunciation, but also can change the vowel in that syllable. So what he's going to talk about is that in normal Hebrew, the last syllable is always the syllable that carries the accent.
Okay. Oh ja, dat is hetzelfde als klemtoon, begrijp ik, hè?
Ja, de klemtoon. Okay. De klemtoon. So you could say that this syllable has a stress. They call it stress. Dat is de klemtoon. In Engels, de klemtoon. Dutch, stress. But it's an accent. And in normally in Hebrew, the stress or the accent or the klemtoon is on the last syllable. So when you have the syllable before the syllable that is stressed, you call it different colors so you can see the change. The last syllable has the accent, so this syllable is called the tonic syllable. It is the syllable that carries the accent or the stress. So the syllable before that, pre-tonic. We know that from prenatal, before the birth. Pre means before. So pre-tonic is the syllable, the name of the syllable is pre-tonic because it's a syllable directly before the syllable that carries the stress. The syllable before that is pro-pre-tonic, yes, pro-pre-tonic. Because the word prototype is also something a type before, but it's at the beginning. The word pro is at the beginning and the word pre is before another anywhere in a sequence. Let's make that clear for you. If you have a lot of syllables, or even if you have footballs, let's make it footballs, then if this is the one, then this one is pre and this one is pre because it's before. It's always before. Pre and pro. It sounds difficult, but it's not. So you have the naming of syllables is dependent of the stress syllables. Now let's go to the, save this, and go to a new share and go to our friend. Make it a little bit bigger. Oh, he's going to explain this now.
Accents. Every Hebrew word has an accent, an accented syllable or a stressed syllable, as we already noted. And the default stressed syllable is the last one. So let me give an example here. De, va, devarim. We'll put our syllable divisions in here just to keep it really straight. So this is our stressed syllable because it's the last one and it's not marked here right now. Now these have names. This here is called the tonic or tone syllable, which makes some sense because that's the one that has the biggest sound to it, tone. This here is the pretonic. So this is the syllable that comes before the tonic syllable, pretonic. And this here is the propretonic. Propretonic. So it's the one that comes before the pretonic. So you have three of them here. Ones before this wouldn't be named, at least not that I'm aware of. Now if you have a word, we'll look at edits, which we've already looked at more than once. Edits is a word that has the stress on the first syllable, not at the end. So now this is the tonic syllable. And there is no pretonic or propretonic syllable in this word. Syllables that follow the tonic syllable aren't named that I'm aware of. So if you want to find the tonic syllable is not the end syllable, it's the one that has the stress on it. Now if you look at Hebrew text, you'll see that there are accent marks, or a biblical Hebrew pointed text. And the accent marks will fall on the tonic syllable. Whatever the accent mark happens to be, and there's a whole bunch of different ones, they'll fall on the tone syllable. So in this word, it would fall here or here. Sometimes they're written above. Different accents are written different places. In this word, it would fall here or here. And so the accent marks can tell you where the stress is on the word, even if you don't use the accent marks for their other purposes. Accent marks are also used for liturgical chanting, and so they're sometimes called cantillation marks. The last module in this chapter, I'll show you Genesis 1:1-6 with all the vowel markings and the cantillation marks to show you what they look like. So we'll talk about a little bit more there. Accent marks. So I said they mark the tone syllable. They're useful that way. They're useful for cantillation, obviously. They also can mark punctuation, give you some sense of where clauses and phrases end, and of course verse endings. And they can also distinguish some verb forms. Again, I'll talk about this more. I'll show you an example in the last module of this chapter. But first I want to deal with a few other things in a couple other modules.
All right. Let's go to the whiteboard. accents. Just to summarize, so we have it in paper. Mark, an accent marks the tonic or stressed syllable. Dus een accent, just in Dutch, een accent markeert de lettergreep waar de klemtoon op ligt. 2. Marks the traditional sentence punctuation. Ik hoop dat het hier nog op past. Punctuation. Traditionele manier. 3. Accents are used to give direction or guidance for cantillation in the synagogue. When we see a Hebrew text, we are still working out what the individual letters of a word are, or what the syllables of a word are. So we don't even see, my brain doesn't, when I see a text, all these little marks, these bended, half bended, and tuning fork symbols.
Oh, okay.
So all these symbols that are in the text have no meaning for me because I'm still busy trying to learn the words to understand what letter it is and how the syllables work. And I'm not yet there skilled in the right pronunciation. It's like somebody from Ethiopia to read out a Dutch text or an English text while he does not know the language. You get all these strange accents in a sentence because their reference is their own language. And for instance, in English, we have the word privacy and privacy. It's a different pronunciation of the same word. In America, I think it's privacy, and in English, it's privacy. But it's the same word, different pronunciation. And it all has to do with how you are used to pronounce text. While in Hebrew, the words of Torah are used to cantillate, to sing in the synagogue during the Shabbat meeting. So when they sing the text, when you read it, they help you to understand how to sing it, how to pronounce it, more like in a singing manner. And number 4, distinguish. Grammatically similar form of words. Similar form of words. In the next module or session, I don't know, it's called module or session, you will going to discuss the matek, and you will be surprised that one little stripe can change the complete meaning of a word. So if you don't see that, you pronounce it wrong and you get a wrong meaning. But that is the interesting part of it. So now we go to the next lesson. If anybody has a question about this, these 4 points or whatever. No? Then we go to...
Ja, ik. Zou je toch eventjes dit in het Nederlands kunnen zeggen? Deze 4 punten?
Ja.
Stop, Anneke.
markeert de toon, dat accent markeert de toon van het de lettergreep met de klemtoon. Dus even een Nederlands voorbeeld bedenken hoor. Soms heb je een woord waar zo'n streepje op staat. En ik hoop dat ik dit goed doe, niet later. Ideeën. Nog een E, nog één. Zo, ideeën.
Zacht.
Ja, dus wij hebben in het Nederlands allemaal van dit soort, het woordje hè of het woordje hey. Dat is een heel simpel voorbeeld. Maar het hè, hey. Dus het beïnvloedt de uitspraak van een lettergreep. Dat doet een accent. En we hebben het dus over die accenten die in het Nederlands boven een woord verschijnen. Ik hoop dat ik dat ook goed doe, zo uit mijn hoofd. Crème kun je volgens mij ook zo schrijven, maar ik weet niet of dat nou volgens het groene boekje correct is. So we have accents in language to direct us in the right pronunciation of the word or even the sentence. So the second part, de tweede, markeert de traditionele zinsopbouw, de punctuatie. Het kan komma's aangeven of puntkomma's. En als je in een zin een komma hebt, pauzeer je. In het Nederlands is een komma het punt van ademhalen in een zin. So in Dutch, the comma is meant to bring a short pause to take a deep breath. When you have a semicolon like this, it's a longer pause. So when you have a comma, it's a short pause, but the semicolon is a long pause. So the accents in Hebrew tell you to take a long pause or a short pause in the sentence. It makes distinction. Het maakt onderscheid in een zin. Derde punt wat ik aangaf is dat het dus aanwijzingen geeft voor de wijze waarop je de tekst moet zingen in de synagoge. Je hebt van die accenten die zijn dit soort accenten of die staan erboven. Of je hebt dit soort vreemde dingen, dat soort omgekeerde stemvork. Al deze accenten geven dus richting. Dit is ook zo'n accent die je dan hebt. Dus die accenten die geven dus informatie aan de lezer hoe je de tekst moet zingen in de synagoge. En het helpt, en daar komen die voorbeelden, het onderscheid te maken tussen woorden die grammaticaal exact hetzelfde woorden die exact hetzelfde geschreven worden, maar door een accent een andere betekenis krijgen. So distinguish grammatically similar form of words. When you have a word that is written exactly the same, but through the accent it changes meaning. Dus dit zijn de 4 redenen. Helpt dit, Ankie?
Zeg maar, dank je.
Dankjewel.
Oké, graag gedaan. You are welcome. Number 2.
Ronald?
Hier Ronald over.
Ja, even een vraagje. Dus kort samengevat. Als er geen stress dingetje in het woord staat, dan is het laatste altijd stress. En anders wordt het aangegeven welke er stress is.
Correct. Nog even een voorbeeld. We hadden net de varim. De varim. Where are you? You learn this. De varim. This is the stressed syllable. Lettergreep. When there is no marking, the accent or the stress or the tone is on the last syllable. When we have a word like Eretz, the stress is on the first syllable. Syllable marker. So you know that this is the stressed syllable. So in the text you see this mark and it tells you It's not eret, but it's eret. Does that help?
And, another question. So,
Yeah, Joshin.
so the historical long um,
Vowels.
vowels
Yeah.
are not main, but the accent is main.
Yeah. Do you remember? Let's take this one a little bit up so I can change my colors easier. Do you remember this? He will get to it. CV, CVC, CVC,
Yeah.
and stressed.
Yeah.
So now I must say this is long and this is short. So when you have CVC, the vowel is always short. When you have CV, an open syllable, the vowel is long. And this is dependent on the sentence. When it's stressed, things changes. This lesson goes about what happens here. What happens to the vowel? And also here, what happens to the vowel when you stress a syllable? This lesson tells us, is going to tell us if it's long or short. Because the vowel, the accent markers in the text will tell you if it's stressed, if it has an accent, then you know how to change it. This is what this lesson is all about. Oh. Okay, so this diagram you will see it more often because this diagram is really important because it tells us a lot. And now we are coming into the phase of learning where we look at a word not only as individual letters, but we look at them as syllables. So immediately you say Aleph, Segol is dus CV. And because it's stressed, it's short. And this is Reds, this is CVC. This is CV, this is CV, and this is CVC. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. Okay, he will tell us in the next module or lesson, I think. Number 2, the metech. I will pause somewhere in the middle to help you to understand and to give you the opportunity to ask a question if you want to.
Metheg. The metheg is a little symbol that sits next to a vowel. Let me give you an example here. We'll look at the word ha, Adam. Ha, Adam, which means the man. Adam is man. Ha is the article, the man. The metheg is a little symbol like this. Small vertical line sits next to a vowel. Now every Hebrew word has a stressed syllable, as we have already mentioned, and the default is that it's the last one. So this is our stressed or tonic syllable. Let's show our syllables here. So tonic, pretonic, propretonic. The metheg is essentially marking a secondary stress. Here's our primary stress. This is the secondary stress. And what it's doing is it's ensuring that the reader pronounces this vowel that it sits next to with its full value. So it's like a minor stress. The major stress is here, ha-adam. But you don't want to reduce this, ha-adam or he-adam, or just really make it short. So this is ensuring that it still is pronounced as a full value, even though it's this far. It's 2 syllables from the final one and would otherwise get reduced. So it is ensuring, the metheg is ensuring that the vowel it sits next to receives its full value, and it's effectively causing a pause in your pronunciation. In fact, metheg means bridle, so it's like you're pausing your horse. slowing down your horse when you hit that syllable. The methic will never show up on the tonic syllable. It will always be somewhere before it, typically the propretonic, so 2 syllables previous to the tonic syllable. Now I want to cover 4 uses. There are many uses of the methic. I want to cover 4 uses of it, and then I'll summarize how to remember this. So the first one really is what we already have here, which is that it will prevent vowel reduction in the propretonic position. In this case, prevent it in the article. Another usage is to preserve a long vowel. Let me actually go to a new screen. Let's look at a word. Put our methic there. So, if with the methic here, we're going to pronounce this. We're going to have a new syllable here. Right? Pause means a new syllable, basically. Chachema. Chachema. That means she is wise. Now, we have a very similar word. In fact, if we just write the same word without the methic, it's a related but different word. Without the methic, this is choch, chochma. This means wisdom. This is she is wise. This is wisdom. We got 3 syllables. We got 2 syllables. The methic ensures that you pronounce this as its full value. If you don't have it, then you pronounce it differently. Now this is one way to tell the difference between a kametz and a kametz hatuf. If you remember,
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. This is an example. I hope this works. Where you can see there's this little signal, this metek changes the same word into a different meaning. Here it is, she is wise. And this means wisdom. So what you see is that this little symbol has a big function, a big influence on the word. What it does, it tells you that the vowel that is over here is important. And you need to pay attention to it. That means that you can't swallow it in. Remember in the former lesson where we had the word shlomo, you could pronounce that as shlomo, where you swallow this very first vowel in the word shlomo. That shwa that was over there. Sh, lo, mo. I hope I pronounce it shlomo. This schwa that is over here, you can swallow it in. You can hardly say it. This metek tells us you can't do that. You need to pronounce this a vowel. This is an a vowel. And it's a long vowel. So this little marker here tells us this vowel is important. You can't swallow it. And because it's important, it has an influence on the word. It divides this, a syllable. Because here are only 2 syllables, chokma, and this syllable is now an O sound, an O vowel. And he's just about to tell you, but I just pause it here to explain it to you. That the same words, the same letters have different meaning because of this little tiny eeny meeny dash below it. And it helps you to understand Ga, ge, ma. She is wise, and this is chochma, wisdom. Does it help? Now I need to erase this. I hope that I can do that, because I think when I continue, stop, annotate. Yeah. Is it
I
stay
talked
there?
about this.
Yeah, it stays there. Does I need to wipe this out because but I paused here for a second to help you understand what he's saying, and you get a better idea of the importance of this little tiny mini dash over here. Okay, go a little bit back because he was trying to explain the difference between this T sound and this T sound.
That you pronounce this as its full value. If you don't have it, then you pronounce it differently. Now this is one way to tell the difference between a comet and a commutative. If you remember, I talked about this and alluded to the fact that I'm going to be talking about how to distinguish them. In the next module, I'll give another case for how you can tell the difference. But one way is if you have a metheg, before a comet, it'll be a long comet. It'll be a comet, not a commutative. So the comets, or this metheg rather, will distinguish between comets and commutative. It'll preserve it as a long vowel. There's another case where the metheg distinguishes between short and long vowel, preserves it as a long vowel, and it's also a common word, two common words that are often confused. Yere, yereu. This means they will be afraid. Let me divide let's do the other one first. Yereu. So here we have the metheg, so we put a syllable there, and here's our next syllable. Here we don't have a metheg, so the syllable goes here, yereu. This is short, right? So CVC, short, that's a valid syllable. We couldn't put the division here because then we'd have CV with a short vowel and open syllable. Remember, CV, open, has to have a long vowel. This is not long. Now, the metheg is saying, keep this as a long vowel. So we have C, V, and we can have an open syllable because this is long. It doesn't look long, but it is long. And the metheg is telling us that. If you didn't have it, you would think it's this. This means they will be afraid. This means they will see. It comes from two completely different words that happen to have some similar consonants in them. And so when you put them in these particular verb forms, they look similar unless you have this metheg. Now, when we deal with verbs later, this will make more sense. Come back and view this at that time. All I want you to know right now is that the metheg can be used to distinguish between short vowels and long vowels. In this case,
Okay, can you hear me? Ja. Je hoort mij, hè? Annotate. He forgot that. Because consonant, vowel, consonant. CVC. And this is CV, CV, CV. And they will be afraid. They will see. So from a grammar perspective, let's put this out so you don't bothered by it. See, oh, CVC, CV. from a grammar perspective, this little marker changes not only the pronunciation. This is a long chirek, a long I sound, and this is a short I sound. This is transcribed as this, and this is just transcribed as an I. So this little marker over here, the metech, does not only change the pronunciation of the vowel, it changes the meaning of the word. Now a little sidestep that is not in the Hebrew lesson, but one thing is common in those words. The gematria of the both words is the same. And what do we know when two Hebrew words have the same numerical value? You can exchange them. Like the Aleph can be exchanged with Yud He, Vav He, because they have the same numerical vowel, numerical value. So when the word "they will be afraid" and "they will see" have the same numerical value, that means that being afraid comes from how you look. So fear has to do in the manner you are looking at something. Do you understand that? Because all these symbols underneath here are called the Mesoretic System, and they designed that system in 800 after Christ. That means that before that these symbols were not present. So you had to know from the context, are they afraid or are they seeing? These symbols help us to pronounce it not only correctly, but also get the right meaning. But it tells you when you, and we learn Hebrew to study, it tells you that when the gematria of a word is the same, then the meaning is the same. So fear is caused by the manner by which you look. If you look in a different way, fear will go away. If you look in the right way, you are at peace. That is why you need to put your eyes on the Lord, and fear will go away. What you see will make you at peace or will make you afraid. And the same is true with the other word. She is wise and chokmah. There is a connection. It is telling us that wisdom is female, because the gematria is the same. And now we need to wipe this all out again. The big wiper. There we go. Wipey, wipey.
Dus
There
de
we go.
metag heeft geen waarde of iets. Het is alleen maar een toevoeging aan de tekst.
Dat is correct, want ook the value of this point here, the chirek. Okay, let's try again. The chirek has no numerical value. The shva has no numerical value. All these vowels, the kamets, the patach, the tsere, the segol, the chirek, the golem, and the U sound, the kamets, I don't know, kibbutz, yeah, and the golem vav. All these symbols have no numerical value. The numerical value only appears with the long historical vowels. Because when the long historical vowels, you have the yud of the vav with a dot in it, or the yud with this one, or a yud with this one, or a hey with that. So it's about the letters. Oh, sorry. The letters caused the gematria, not the Mesoretic symbols. Yeah? Go back. Good question. Go back erasing again. Ta-da. There we go. Uppity.
You to know right now is that the method can be used to distinguish between short vowels and long vowels. In this case, it distinguishes a kametz and a kametz hatuf. If the method is there, it preserves it as long. In this case, it distinguishes between, effectively what this is a defective hirik yud. There's a yud missing, and this tells us that. So again, the method is preserving a long vowel and distinguishing it from a short vowel, which is important, because you need to know the difference between these two words. They mean something very different. So that's a second use of the method, to preserve a long vowel. Let's look at a third use. This is, let me write it here first. Can you read that word? It's a biblical name. So if you want to read this, there's a method. So effectively we have a syllable division here, and then we have another one here, because we need a closed syllable here. Yaakov means Jacob. Yaakov. Methods will often show up before a compound shava. And what it's doing is it's ensuring that we're going to give full value to our patach here. So just don't be surprised if you see it. If you see a method before a compound shava, that's something that happens. And lastly, I want to give a different example. This is interesting. He'arim, which means cities. Arim is cities. He is the article, something like ha'adam. Now in this case, we have a sagol here, and the method is marking that there's something different going on here. It's flagging the reader to say, okay, pay attention to the fact that we have CV, we have a syllable with a short vowel in it. Now that's a violation of our rules, right? CV unstressed, here's our stressed syllable. Let's put our syllables in here again, just to be really clear. Stressed syllable, this is tonic, pretonic, propretonic, and so we have CV, an open syllable with a short vowel. It should be long. Well, what this is essentially doing is saying, yes, I know it should be long, but I'm going to put this here. It gives it a secondary stress, and so we have a short vowel here. Now, this is probably getting confusing. We have methods sometimes indicating long vowels, sometimes indicating short vowel, as here. The way to think about this is this. Method means bridle, okay? So you're on your horse, and you're going to slow your horse down. You hit a syllable that has a method, you pause. Pause in your pronunciation. Now, if you pause in your pronunciation, you are ending a syllable, so it's a syllable break. Remember that, and you'll know how to read it. All these cases here, if we look at them, we have a syllable break after the method. We do he'arim, Yaakov, and here, yir'u. If we don't have it, it's just yir'u, so we have a syllable break there. Hachema, as opposed to chochma, so we have a syllable break. And our last one, or first one really, ha'adam, we have a syllable break. So, method, the vertical line, just think vertical line, syllable break, okay? And then you'll pronounce it fine. The one, of all these four, the most important one to remember is that the method will help you distinguish between these two symbols here, kametz, hatuf. This one probably is important to remember. The other ones don't worry about for now. Now this, fortunately, the kametz is much more common than the kametz hatuf. And so most of the time, this symbol is just kametz. If you see this, it means keep it as a kametz. Okay? I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between those two vowels in the next module.
Oké.
Ronald,
Ja,
bridle betekent bruid, maar ik weet niet wat het met een paard te maken heeft.
teugels.
Oh, het betekent ook teugels. Ik dacht bridle, bruid
Oh,
was.
bridal. Ja, nee, dat is bridal. Oké.
Oké.
Ja,
Dank je.
de geteugelde bruid.
Oké. Nou, dat snap ik hem.
Maar wel een wijze bruid, hè?
Ja. Yeah, the bridle. It's not a bride. It's a bridle. It's that when you pull the bridles on a horse, the horse slows down,
Ja, ja.
and when you give it loose, it goes full.
Ja, ja.
So here we have Ha Adam. If you wouldn't have this marker, when you pronounce it like this, when you pronounce it, you have two A's directly next to each other. So what you could then, in your speech, would come out like Hadam. If you wouldn't have this marker saying, listen guys, this kamet must be pronounced. You cannot swallow it in, because Ha-Adam. If you wouldn't have this kamet here, in normal speech, it would be Hadam. And that's not the case. It's Ha-Adam. You pause to make clear that between the two A's, there is a pause. So this is not true. That's what it is telling you. This little friend over here tells us you can't say Hadam because the two A's must be pronounced separate from each other. Ha-Adam. It's a pause. So the first, it causes a pause, and it's a syllable marker or breaker, whatever you want. Oh, a syllable breaker. So when you see a kamet or a metech, when you see a metech, you can, as far as I know, always say, look guys, there is a syllable, and at a syllable you change, you pause a little bit. Yes? Now I need to, what's the easiest way? Oh. Takes me more work to do this. Annotate out a bit further.
So, Methig, the vertical line, just
Oh, the same is with here. Come on. So you have the same here. It's a syllable marker. A syllable marker. It tells you, take a break. Take a break. Pause. And pay attention to the vowel. So the second reason, it distinguishes between the A vowel and the O vowel. The A vowel long and the O vowel short. This is the kamet, and this is the kamet schatuf. So it tells us when this marker, this little metek friend, your vowel needs attention. It needs attention. So it becomes long.
Maar Ronald, hoe weet je dat het een A of een O is?
There is a, there's not no much time, but the next lesson, the second next lesson, not the next one, but the next, there is more lessons in this chapter. he explains what the difference is between and what a rule is. Good question, but you are running ahead. So this is an A vowel, and in let's give it a number. 90% of the cases, this symbol is an A vowel. And it's transcribed as this. And the other percentage is an O vowel. And that's why this kametz is here, of this metech is here. Let's go wipe it out again. Goes much faster this. Doesn't go away. Okay. That was it. And the third reason, where's the Yaakov word? Where's the Yaakov? There's the Yaakov. Yeah. So here we have Yaakov. And again. Oh, no, this. Nee, where's Yaakov? Sorry. I thought it was. I saw Yaakov. Where are you? There it is. This one was I looking for. From the previous chapter, we know this one as a compound schwa. And remember from our vowel chart, A, E, I, O, U, we have the long, the short, and how's it word? The very short.
Reduced.
Reduced, that's the correct word. Thank you. Reduced. So these are transcribed like this. These are normal, the short ones. And the reduced ones are like this. And they have these double points before them. And this is, I'll leave it over here because there's not much space. This is a compound schwa. We're talking about these reduced vowels over here. So when you have a compound schwa, most of the times you see this metech to tell you that you need to pay attention to this vowel. This vowel is important because here is a very short vowel. So that's why you get the metech before the compound schwa. In the next week, we go through the last lesson and he takes us through the first 5 verses of Genesis 1. And there you can see all these markers for pronunciation, but also the metech and the other one. But it's almost 9 o'clock, so I hesitate to continue with the next one. But to remember this, let's go. Oh my gosh, whiteboard. Oh, annotate. New share, whiteboard, share. Yeah, there we are. We have the metech. It means bridle, or in Dutch, the teugel. And what does it do? It makes you pause. So the first thing we learned is that the metech helps you to distinguish between the kamets, which is the A vowel, long, and the kamets chatuf. I spell it like this, which is the O vowel, short. So the metech helps you to distinguish between the kamets and the kamets chatuf. Second, it pays attention to pronounce the vowel. In other words, to make it long or longer than you would normally do. And the third reason, it's a syllable marker, because when you have a long vowel, most of the times you end the syllable. A syllable marker. So when you see a metech, you know, pay attention, I need to pronounce this vowel. It might be short, but the metech makes it long. So therefore, it's a syllable marker. And the fourth reason is it precedes, how do you say that? Precedes the compound schwa.
Kun je dat in het Nederlands zeggen, Ronald?
Hij gaat vooraf aan de verkorte klinker. Dus je hebt in het, nog even het rijtje, je hebt de lange klinkers, de A, de E, de I, de O en de U. Je hebt de korte klinkers, A, E, I, O, U. En je hebt de verkorte klinkers. Bijvoorbeeld in het woordje begrepen is het een hele korte E. In het woord geven zit een lange E. En in het woord behalen zit weer een E in de tussenvorm. Be, E. Dus A en A. Nou, de I is lastig uit te spreken, maar O en O. Dus dit is verkort. Dit is de compound. En de U heeft er geen. So there are the metech, it sounds difficult, but now you know when you see this little friend standing next to a vowel, pay attention to the vowel. It tells you to make it long. Even if the vowel is short, it tells you to make it long, and also with the I vowel. It's long, and it also gives you information behind this is a syllable. It's the syllable marker. Let's put on save. It was an interesting lesson. I understand that it is difficult, and maybe we can have a short peek. Let's prepare that at Genesis 1, just to run ahead of him. Control N. Where's my Bible Hub? And then we end just to show you interlinear. Where is my little friend? Make it a little bit bigger so I can read it. And now new share. There we go. There we are. Annotate. So let's see if we can find some of our friends. over here. There it is. Are there more? Oh, come up. Here's one. And you see these other markers. I have to stop, annotate, and then I can. We will get there in the next lesson, but we're going to show you what all these little markers above and this one over here and over here, they are for cantillation, so for how to sing them and how to pronounce them. Over here is another one. Over here are two, you see? Two. So we have all these markers and you don't see them transliterated. They are not here. This symbol is not here. But the next lesson, we will discuss that. But just to show you, they are everywhere in the text, but now you notice them because you have learned of the first one, the metek. The next week, we are going in the another one, the makeb, and the, what is the last one? The kametz chatuf. What is the reason for the kametz chatuf? So one is this little T symbol and, how you say that? An A or an O. It sounds complicated, but we get there. Now when you start reading Hebrew in a normal interlinear Bible or in your Hebrew Bible, what you can purchase at my, of course, New Testament or Old Testament complete. I have them available in my store. Yoo-hoo. And you can purchase one. They're not very, very expensive. So this is a big one, the Old Testament. And if you take a Hebrew Bible without any English translation, your mind needs to listen to see it. It is, you learn it quicker. Let's put it this way. You learn it quicker when you take a Hebrew Bible without any explanation and just look at the text and try to distinguish the words and the syllables just by looking at them. When you start, you use Bible Hub because all the dots are in it. But when you go on a little bit further, you start looking at the text and say, hey, this is interesting. Now I recognize, I don't know always what it means, but I can recognize the symbols. Okay, guys, I see you next week. 7:30, 7:30. We start with our grammar class. And at 8 o'clock, we start with the second session of our course, chapter 4, the accents. See you next week.